new episodes of The View when she tries to pull the race card.
Yes.
And then she's like, America is racist. And then they're like, yeah, they might be racist, but they're not like slave owner racist. like somebody that we...
That's so true.
Yeah.
One thing, and I would have even actually not give her any is she said, well, I guess that's just what they did back then.
Yeah.
She should have followed that up with saying something along the lines of, and I understand that that's a departure from the way I've talked about this.
Welcome back to Gossip Galaxy. Sunny Hostin, one of the most polarizing and self-assured voices on The View, just got served a brutal dose of irony that left both her and the internet completely stunned.
It is funny. She's so wrapped up in identity, and she had no idea who she was.
Well, now we understand why she always makes Whoopi get the coffee.
Exactly, because if she is shaming descendants of this, will she continue to do that when she is now one of...
For years, Sunny has been a relentless advocate for racial justice, reparations, and identity politics. Her fiery debates and unwavering stance have made her a formidable force in daytime television. She speaks with absolute confidence, often delivering her opinions with an air of moral superiority, an approach that has made her both admired and criticized. If there's a discussion about racial inequality, best believe Sunny is leading the charge, unapologetic, fearless, and ready to call out anyone who doesn't align with her views. So, when she decided to take part in PBS's Finding Your Roots, the critically acclaimed show where celebrities uncover their ancestry, fans expected nothing less than a powerful, emotional journey. This was supposed to be another defining moment for her, another opportunity to solidify her personal story as a testament to the very issues she so passionately fights for. But what happened instead? Absolute chaos. What should have been a heartwarming deep dive into her family's past quickly took a turn, so wild, so unexpected, that it sent shockwaves through social media. The internet couldn't believe it. Comment sections exploded, tweets flew at lightning speed, and Sunny? Let's just say she wasn't ready for this one. Because here's the thing. When someone builds their entire public image around fighting for historical justice, you'd assume they already know their own history inside and out. You'd think there wouldn't be any skeletons in the closet, nothing that could contradict their message. But Sunny's revelation didn't just catch her off guard.
Everyone has ancestors that did unspeakably horrible things. It's just that not everyone's ancestors have records tied to their DNA about it. Worried for Sunny Hostin's progeny in the future that do a DNA test and find out that they were related to a cast member of The View. And they're like, oh, it all makes so much sense now why I'm so stupid and fat.
What she uncovered on Finding Your Roots wasn't just surprising. It was downright earth-shattering. The truth about her ancestry left her visibly shaken, completely unprepared for the history lurking in her own family tree. And the reactions? Let's just say the internet had a field day with it. So, what exactly did Sunny discover? And why has it thrown her entire public image into question? Before we dive into the juicy details, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe, because trust me, you won't want to miss this. As Sunny Hostin sat across from renowned genealogist Henry Louis Gates Jr., she was ready for a deep, emotional journey into her ancestry. She had likely envisioned a powerful story, one that traced back to generations of resilience, struggle, and the very injustices she has passionately fought against on The View. Maybe she expected to uncover tales of oppression, migration, or a lineage marked by hardship. Instead, what she got was a revelation so stunning, so painfully ironic, that it left her visibly shaken. Her ancestors weren't struggling immigrants. They weren't the oppressed. They weren't even the victims of the very systems she's built her platform around dismantling. They were slave owners. Let that sink in. Sunny Hostin, the same woman who has spent years fighting for reparations, denouncing systemic racism, and calling out the lasting effects of slavery, just learned that her own bloodline directly profited from the institution she has spent her career condemning. The moment the words left Gates's mouth, her entire demeanor changed. She blinked, stared at the papers in front of her, a moment of pure, unfiltered disbelief. Her confidence, usually rock solid and unshakable, wavered. She struggled to process what she had just heard, her voice faltering as she finally spoke. I didn't think my family was originally from Spain or slaveholders. The words stumbled out of her mouth as if they didn't belong to her, like she was trying to convince herself that.
Guess there's nothing worse than to find out you're a white woman.
She's so disappointed.
It's really disappointing.
Her mother was white.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
The horror. History, and finds out that this is fantastic. She is descended from slaveholders. She's descended from slaveholders, and she's been apparently getting a lot of mail about her call for reparations because it turns out she's going to be paying them and not actually receiving.
The kind that makes you wonder if your TV just glitched. The air in the room felt heavier. Even Gates, who has delivered plenty of shocking ancestry news to high-profile guests before, seemed to recognize the weight of this particular moment. But being the seasoned media professional she is, Sunny attempted to recover, try to smooth things over, grasping for something, anything that might soften the blow. She muttered something about how this would be an interesting tidbit for her children to learn. But let's be real, there was no salvaging this moment. The damage was done. The internet was already catching fire. Comment sections, Twitter threads, and gossip blogs were lighting up like a Christmas tree. Critics were calling it hypocrisy. Fans were left speechless. And Sunny? Well, she had just been served a reality check so intense that even she didn't know how to spin it. And this is only the beginning, because now the world wants to know, how is Sunny going to handle this revelation? Will she own up to it? Or will she try to rewrite the narrative? Stay tuned, because this story is far from over. And of course, it didn't take long for Greg Gutfeld to jump in on the chaos. If irony had an official trophy, Greg just snatched it up with both hands. Kicking off his segment in classic Gutfeld fashion, he didn't hold back, delivering a punchline that had his audience.
If you average out the View hosts, among the dumbest people on television.
Sonny's dumb. Certainly not the brightest person. And what she just said just doesn't make any sense. It's just like so silly to say. It's not a well thought out. It's like if you had an idea for a premise and it was totally baked and half baked and you went on stage with it and it's nothing.
Just go for it. Yeah.
Sonny Hostin's ancestors were slave owners. That's like finding out a vegan secretly owns a barbecue joint. The crowd erupted in laughter, and Greg was just getting warmed up. He immediately started peeling back the layers of hypocrisy, making it clear that Sonny's entire brand of moral high ground just took a serious nosedive. For years, she's been front and center, calling out historical injustices and demanding accountability from others. But when the spotlight turned on her own family's past, suddenly that same energy was nowhere to be found. Greg didn't mince words. He pointed out the glaring double standard, delivering a zinger that hit like a knockout punch. Next time Sunny pulls the race card on The View, someone's going to remind her, at least we're not slave owner racists. The audience lost it. Even Greg had to pause as the laughter took over the room. But it wasn't just about the joke. He also got serious, addressing what many found genuinely troubling about the whole situation, Sunny's complete lack of accountability. Instead of using this shocking revelation as a moment of introspection, maybe even issuing a thoughtful response, she
I'm not saying
remained
that Joe Rogan
conspicuously
should
silent.
be removed from Spotify. He's got 11 million listeners. He's got a $100 million, contract as of 2020. But I do think as the podcast platform, you have to have some sort of guidelines. How about a disclaimer on his podcast that says, this is misinformation? How about removing some of the podcasts that disseminate this misinformation?
They have.
And that's listen.
She simply brushed it off as just a fact of life. No deeper reflection, no acknowledgement of the irony, nothing. And the internet? Oh, it exploded. The second this news hit the airwaves, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok went into absolute overdrive. The reactions were brutal, hilarious, and relentless. One viral tweet summed it up perfectly. Sunny Hostin finding out her family were slave owners is the plot twist of the year. And, of course, the memes came flooding in. One of the most viral ones? A photoshopped image of Sunny looking shocked with the caption, "Reparations? Let me write that check to myself real quick." It was mayhem. The irony was just too rich, and social media had zero mercy. But the bigger question remains, Will Sunny finally address the elephant in the room? Or is she hoping this controversy just disappears? Because if history has taught us anything, the internet never forgets. Some of Sunny's most loyal fans rushed to her defense, arguing that she shouldn't be held responsible for the sins of her ancestors. After all, she wasn't the one making those decisions centuries ago. But not everyone was willing to let her off the hook so easily. The backlash was swift, sharp, and relentless. It's not about blaming her for what her ancestors did, one commenter wrote. It's about the hypocrisy of shaming others while ignoring the skeletons in your own closet.
I don't understand how you say you love your country at the same time as you normalize this convicted felon.
And that seemed to be the real issue. Not the distant history itself, but the fact that Sunny has spent years condemning others for their pasts, only to turn a blind eye when her own family's name was on the record. Greg Gutfeld wasn't finished either. He used the moment to go beyond Sunny, taking aim at the broader debate around identity politics and how it tends to oversimplify issues that are far more nuanced than people like Sunny often admit. He pointed out that reducing everything to race and historical guilt leaves no room for context, individual accountability, or personal growth. Even debate analyst O'Donnell stepped in, taking things a step further. This is what happens when you focus so much on race, he argued. You lose sight of the individual, the context, the nuance, and eventually it backfires, just like it did for Sunny. The audience murmured in agreement. The irony of the situation was simply too undeniable to ignore. O'Donnell then zeroed in on the real takeaway, one that many have been trying to emphasize throughout the controversy. It's not about who your ancestors were. It's about what you do today. That was the key difference. While history is
Country superstar Carrie Underwood has spent most of her career avoiding political talk, but she's set to perform at the upcoming inauguration. She said in a statement that she's doing it because the country must come together in the spirit of unity and look to the future. And lots of her fans aren't thrilled about it, but lots of her fans are. So let's put this in perspective here. What do y'all think?
I personally hope we're moving beyond the era of politics where we want to cancel people's livelihoods because we don't like their politics. And whether it was the Dixie Chicks for criticizing George Bush, didn't agree with it then, and Carrie Underwood, if you have a problem, you register your complaint by not downloading her songs and not going to her shows. Right. But I also think from a business standpoint, it's not a bad decision for Carrie Underwood. 75 million people voted for Trump. Artists tend to skew left-leaning, so she's overnight going to become an icon of MAGA and the American right. She's probably going to make a lot of money off of it, so I get why she did it.
For years, Sunny has been the one delivering lectures, holding people accountable, and demanding that others answer for historical injustices. But now, the tables have turned. The real question is, will she hold herself to the same standard? Will she finally take a step back and reevaluate the way she's judged others? Because this situation raises bigger questions that go beyond just Sunny Hostin. How should society handle historical accountability? Should people who constantly condemn others for their family's past be willing to face the same scrutiny when their own skeletons come tumbling out? Or does selective outrage come with an expiration date? One thing's for sure, this conversation isn't dying down anytime soon. Or is it enough to simply acknowledge the past without letting it define you? That was the question floating around. But let's be real, Sunny never extended that same grace to others. Greg's panel had a field day with this one. The moment was just too good to pass up, and they weren't about to let Sunny walk away from it unscathed. One co-host couldn't resist cracking a joke. If Sunny's been shaming descendants of slave owners, does she now have to shame herself? The room erupted in laughter. Another commentator piled on, pointing out the sheer irony of the situation. It's funny how wrapped up she is in identity politics. Turns out she didn't even know who she was. While the internet roasted Sunny to no end, some took a different approach. They argued that this moment could have been a major turning point for her. Instead of dismissing it as just a fact of life, she had a golden opportunity, a chance to use this revelation to spark a deeper, more thoughtful conversation about history, identity, and personal accountability. Imagine if Sunny had taken a different route. Imagine if she had looked straight into the camera and said, "I've learned something surprising about my family, and it's making me rethink how I approach these conversations." It could have been a defining moment, a chance to show growth, reflection, and maybe even a little humility. But instead, just a shrug, a quick pivot, and an expectation that everyone would just move on. Even her fellow co-hosts on The View seemed unsure how to react to the news. The tension was thick. Whoopi Goldberg, known for her sharp wit and ability to turn awkward moments into comedy gold, may have been holding back the ultimate quip. "Sonny, do you want me to get you coffee, or should we ask your slave-holding ancestors for a refill?" Now, that would have been a moment for the history books. But instead, the entire situation just lingered in awkwardness, with the world still waiting to see if Sonny would ever truly address the elephant in the room.
Right now, I wouldn't do it, even though I
You
can't
would not sing?
No, I would not. I would not normalize him. And she says, "I love our country." How do you love your country and support and normalize somebody who was a convicted felon who really wants to destroy the country, in my opinion? I don't understand how you say you love your country at the same time as you normalize this convicted felon, which I can say now every day.
A lot of my family voted for Trump. They love the country and vote for him. I think that people make these decisions
Fine.
for a lot of reasons.
Okay, fine. And I would not be the person to say don't do it, because I believe in free speech and everything about it. I personally would not do it. No one's asked me, but that's another story.
I would love for you to do a roast at the Trump inauguration. Yeah. Okay. Oh, no one else.
At the end of the day, this isn't just about Sonny Hostin. This is a wake-up call, a cautionary tale about the dangers of self-righteousness, the unpredictability of history, and why humility is more important than ever. Because if there's one thing this controversy has proven, it's that history is rarely as simple as we want it to be. It's messy, it's complicated, and it forces us to confront uncomfortable truths. And no matter how much someone claims the moral high ground, none of us are free from its shadow. That's why conversations about race, history, and accountability shouldn't be about virtue, signaling, or weaponizing the past to shame others. They should be about understanding, growth, and genuine self-awareness. The problem? Sonny never made room for nuance. She spent years delivering fiery lectures, condemning people for things they had no control over, and demanding historical reparations, only to now discover that her own family was sitting on the other side of that very history. And then, instead of addressing it with the honesty and reflection she's always demanded from others, she brushed it off. No apology, no real discussion. Just an awkward pivot and a hope that everyone would move on. But the internet doesn't forget. The internet doesn't let things slide. And now, Sonny is on the receiving end of the very scrutiny she's built her brand on dishing out. Greg Gutfeld summed it up perfectly. When you spend your life looking for racism everywhere, eventually it finds you. And for Sonny, it was sitting right there in her family tree. So what now? Does Sonny finally take a step back and reevaluate the way she approaches these issues? Will she acknowledge the irony, take accountability, and use this as an opportunity for actual growth? Or will she double down, deflect, and continue pretending like this isn't one of the most awkward historical revelations in daytime TV history? Only time will tell. But one thing is clear. This story is not going away anytime soon. And who knows? Maybe the next time she lectures America on history, she'll think twice before throwing stones from her glass ancestral house. Because now, she's got a front row seat to the kind of historical reckoning she's demanded from others. But what do you think? Does Sonny owe the public a real conversation about this? Or is it enough to simply acknowledge the past and move on? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And before you go, don't forget to smash that like button, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss the latest Hollywood bombshells. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.